Some people dream of things they can't explain. Others wake up in tears, not knowing why. But what if those dreams started becoming real? This story was sent in by a man named Rayhan from Bangladesh, and to this day, no one, not his wife, not his doctors, not even his religious advisors, can explain what happened to him or how he came face to face with his own death while still alive. Back in 1996, Rayhan and his entire family made a big move. They left their old hometown of Nazira Bazar and settled in Mirpur, a busy but growing neighborhood in Dhaka, Bangladesh. They had just built a new home, one they had planned for years. A two-storied RCC apartment-style house with a layout inspired by American block patterns. The homes were closely packed, maybe 8 to 10 feet apart from the neighbors, but they had enough space to build a small lawn, a garage with a metal shutter, and a main gate that separated the property from the street. On the first floor, 2 rental flats were occupied by tenants. The second floor was reserved for Rayhan's large joint family. Rayhan lived with his wife and young child. His brother and his family occupied the flat next door. Their parents had a separate unit on the same floor. Only Rayhan's sister lived away with her husband. The move was exciting. A new home, a fresh start. But something followed Rayhan to that house. Something he couldn't explain. Rayhan had a condition that disturbed his wife deeply. Almost every night, he would wake up crying in his sleep. His pillow would be soaked, his eyes red, his breathing shallow and choked, as though he had seen something terrible. But whenever his wife asked him what was wrong, he would say the same thing. "I don't know. I can't remember." At first, she thought it might be stress, or maybe he was keeping something from her, but this kept happening. Night after night, week after week, sometimes quiet sobs, other times loud, anguished crying, and always he would wake up, sit on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands, trying to remember the dream, but the memory was always just out of reach. They went to doctors, psychologists, even to imams, respected religious figures in their community, but no one could find a cause or a cure. Eventually, his wife just learned to live with it. It became a sad, unexplained part of their daily life. Then came the first night that changed everything. It was around 2:45 a.m. Rayhan suddenly woke up, heart pounding, the same patterned tears on his face, clothes damp from sweat, but no idea what dream had caused it. He sat on the bed like always, hands covering his face, but that night, something was different. He heard a sound. It was faint, almost like someone whispering, but in rhythm, like someone was reading. He turned off the fan to listen more clearly. The sound continued, murmuring, soft, almost melodic, like reciting a passage. He got out of bed and turned on the lights. The sound wasn't coming from his room or from outside. It was coming from the stairwell, the lobby that connected the second floor to the first floor. Cautiously, he opened his door and stepped into the dim hallway. He could hear the sound more clearly now. Someone was reciting verses from the Quran, not loudly but in unison. He leaned over the stair railing and looked down. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. In the darkness of the first floor stair lobby, he saw dozens of white prayer caps, tupis, worn by religious Muslims during rituals. He couldn't see faces clearly, but there were at least 25 to 30 men standing in rows, all reciting the Quran together. And something else chilled him. The main gate of the house was wide open. In the 90s, robberies were common in Dhaka. You never left the gate open at night, ever. He reached for the switch and turned on the stairwell light. Nothing happened. He tried again. The first floor light wouldn't turn on. Something was off. The people downstairs, he didn't recognize any of them. No one from the rental units. No neighbors. Just strangers. Unsettled, he backed away from the stairs, closed the door, and sat on his bed until dawn. The next morning, He asked one of the tenants, an older man, if there had been any religious gathering last night. The tenant looked confused. "No, I didn't hear anything," the man said. "I would have known. I was home all night." Rayhan didn't know what to think. Had he imagined it? 6 months passed without incident. Rayhan still cried in his sleep. But no more strange gatherings. Until one night. Same time, same routine. He woke up in tears. But this time, instead of reciting, he heard crying, echoing from the stairwell below. He stood in the hallway, frozen. The sound was so real. One important thing that I forget to mention. Around that time, Dhaka was facing a brutal heat wave. Temperatures were unbearable, and the city had gone weeks without rain. Mosques were filled with people praying for relief. That Friday, Rayhan attended the prayer, despite feeling sick and weak. After returning home, he felt chills, ice-cold air on his back, in the middle of blistering heat. "Is it raining outside?" he asked his wife. She stared at him. "What are you saying? I'm sweating like crazy." That night at midnight, a violent storm hit the city. Thunder shook the walls. Power went out across the neighborhood. Rayhan woke again, now in total darkness. He heard the crying louder this time, mixed with prayers. Some people were wailing. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped into the stairwell. When he reached the first-floor lobby, he froze. There were dozens of people standing in silence, some crying, others whispering verses. He shone his flashlight around. He didn't know a single face. He walked outside. The garage shutter was open. The main gate too. The lawn was crowded with people, all gathered quietly in the rain. He struggled to move forward, pushing through the crowd. His skin was ice cold. His breath came in short, fast bursts. Then he saw it. A veil of white cloth strung between the garage and the veranda above. A covered area. Someone passed by him carrying a pot of boiling water and slipped under the veil. For a brief second, Rayhan saw inside. A body wrapped in white cloth. Men standing around, preparing the body for its final bath before burial. He stepped forward to get a better look. And then he saw the face. It was his own. He screamed and fainted. Rayhan woke up in the hospital. His family said they found him unconscious by the garage. They assumed it was heat stroke. His wife thought it might have been a vivid dream, but she was worried. Deeply. They brought him to a psychiatrist. He was prescribed medication, sleeping pills, calming agents. For a few weeks he actually slept peacefully. Then one night it happened again. He woke up crying. He heard wailing and praying downstairs. But this time, there was power. He didn't go alone. He called his brother from the flat next door. Together they went downstairs. But everything was normal. The main gate was locked. The garage shutter was closed. No people, no voices. Rayhan turned to his brother. "But I saw them just now. Our lawn was filled with people." His brother looked at him concerned. "You're hallucinating. Don't think about it. Take your pills. Go lie down." Rayhan agreed. Defeated, he went back inside, locked his apartment, turned around, and saw 2 coffins in his living room. He didn't see who was inside, but they were there. 2 coffins, side by side. He screamed. The entire family came rushing in, but by the time they entered, the room was empty again. Exactly 14 days after that night, Rayhan's father came home from the mosque. He sat on his favorite chair, asking for a glass of water. As someone brought it to him, he whispered a prayer, holding his beads in one hand, and then the beads slipped from his fingers. He had died in mid-prayer. The family broke down. People came from everywhere for the funeral. The house was filled with people. The veil was tied between the garage and the veranda. Men carried buckets of water. A body lay inside, wrapped in white. Rayhan stood, unable to breathe. He had seen this, exactly this. The same people, same voices, same prayers. He stood there heartbroken. trying to understand what is happening with him. All day he and his brother was busy for their father burial ceremony. But deep inside he was thinking about Two Coffins incident. After all the arrangements were made, they placed their father's body gently onto a small pickup truck. One by one, the people who would journey to the graveyard began to gather. Friends, family, neighbors, each drawn by grief, duty, or quiet memory. And then, just as they were preparing the burial, someone screamed from inside the house. Rayhan's mother had collapsed. She too had died. He stood there in shock, trying to make some sense. Suddenly, he remembered about the incident. Rayhan is alive today. The dreams, the crying, the visions, they've stopped. But he remembers everything. He doesn't know if he was seeing the future or being warned, or if something wanted him to understand death before it happened. What you just heard was translated into English, and while every effort was made to stay true to the original, some cultural elements, like Islamic funeral rituals or family customs, may feel unfamiliar to Western audiences. We ask that you listen with an open mind, and if you've experienced something strange, share your story with us. Based on a true experience by Al-Amin, from Khulna, a place in Bangladesh. The night of March 13, 2015, a Friday. Still sits like ash in the folds of Al-Amin's memory. A night soaked in silence, shadows, and something far beyond reason. At that time, Al-Amin was a businessman from Khulna, deeply involved in the Jew transport trade. That night, he had delivered a shipment to a remote jute mill, nestled approximately 15 to 18 miles from the town of Bogura. The jute mill sat in isolation, surrounded by a sea of silent rice paddies, with no human dwelling in sight. Only the factory stood with its monstrous machines whirring through the night, and beside it, a brick field. Both factories reportedly owned by the same man. Sometimes when it got late, Al-Amin would sleep inside the jute mill for convenience. That night, he had done the same. Around 11 p.m., the relentless hum of the machines and the distant mechanical howling of the brick field kept him from sleep. He tossed, turned, and finally gave up. Climbing out of bed, he stepped out of the factory and onto the silent road that ran in front. His eyes drifted to the brick field. It was engulfed in complete darkness, except for a single weak bulb hanging near a small office hut. Next to it stood a massive tree, circled at its base with a masonry seating wall. It was a place workers often sat under during breaks in the daytime, but now it stood lonely beneath the dim yellow light, a solitary throne for someone unwelcome. With a sigh, Al-Amin walked over and sat beneath the tree, the concrete cool beneath him. The night air was alive only with insects and the rhythm of the jute factory's machines. Yet, as he sat there, scrolling through Facebook, something inside him stirred. A creeping, inexplicable unease, a sensation as if the night itself had begun watching him. To calm his nerves, he lit a cigarette, the tiny glow of the fire momentarily giving him comfort. The tobacco smoke curled into the night, and he told himself he'd finish it and head back in. It was getting late. His body felt strangely heavy. He had only taken a few steps back toward the jute mill, perhaps 20 to 30 steps, when a voice rang out from behind him.
"Hey brother, wait."
Al-Amin turned. A man, draped in a clean white outfit, was walking toward him. Calm, almost serene. Al-Amin was surprised, but not alarmed. He tossed the cigarette in respect and waited. The man came close and asked gently,
"How are you?"
"I'm fine," Al-Amin replied, blinking in the dim light. "Do I know you?" The man smiled.
40 days ago, we were introduced. You fed me dinner in a Bogura restaurant. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. Do you remember?
And just like that, Alamin did remember. A cold, vivid memory bloomed in his head. One from more than a month ago. It had been around 1:30 a.m., after a delivery. He had been walking along the road when a homeless man had grabbed his hand, begging for food. Alamin had taken him to a restaurant, bought him a full meal, and even given him 50 taka afterward. A simple act of kindness, long buried in the avalanche of daily business. Now this man stood before him. Alamin asked, "How are you now?"
Better than ever.
The man smiled strangely.
I've been waiting for you for 40 days.
Confused, Alamin asked, "Do you need help?"
No,
He replied softly.
I just wanted to see you.
Then his tone shifted.
You shouldn't have come here tonight. You did a very bad thing.
The words struck odd, chilling, but Alamin forced a nervous laugh, thinking the man meant it playfully. He bid him goodbye and resumed his walk back to the mill. After about 45 seconds, curiosity nudged him. He turned to see where the man had gone, but nothing. No trace, no silhouette. Just the tree, the dark office, the flickering bulb, and that awful sense of something being off. The man had vanished into thin air. But he didn't have time to wonder. From the shadowed edge of the road, 4 men emerged, armed with knives and sharpened tools. Their faces were obscured, but their intentions were loud. "Give us everything," one growled. Alamin's money bag was snatched. When they tried to take his mobile, he resisted. That was when they lunged. Pain, searing. His hands were sliced, body thrown down. Blood soaked into the dust as the world faded. When Alamin came to, it was to a soft voice, calm and eerily familiar.
I told you, but don't worry. You'll find your things under your bed.
His eyes snapped open. He was inside the caretaker's room, exactly where he had tried to sleep earlier that night. His clothes were bloodied. His hands still bore fresh wounds. Dazed, he checked beneath his pillow. There his money bag. His mobile. He staggered outside and grabbed a security guard, demanding answers. How did I get back here? Who brought me? The guard looked genuinely puzzled. You never left. You've been here all night sleeping. Alamin dragged the guard outside, to the road, to the spot where the man in white vanished. And there on the dirt, still glistening under the early dawn, his blood. At sunrise, Alamin packed everything and headed to the bus terminal. As he waited, his mind raced through the night's horror. Was it a hallucination? A dream? Some trauma-induced breakdown? That's when he saw it. A crumpled old newspaper on a nearby bench. His eyes fell on the photo on the front page. His breath caught in his throat. It was him, the man in white. March 2, the headline read, "Local homeless man dies in road accident." The date hit Alamin like a hammer. It had been exactly 41 days since that death. I am Mamun Abdullah, and I am writing from Bagherhat, Bangladesh. This story dates back to 1966, an eerie chapter in our family history that centers around my father's uncle Maqsood Sheikh. My grandfather Maqsood Sheikh was a village physician, young, courageous, and known for his magnetic presence. People were naturally drawn to his energy. He had the kind of aura that made heads turn and hearts trust. Beyond his medical skills, he had a soul for music. At every major village celebration or gathering, he was either invited to sing or stepped onto the stage by popular demand. But there was one more, lesser-known part of his life. He helped people dealing with possession. Though not deeply religious, he had a strange knack. Some would say a gift. He treated people suffering from spiritual afflictions. When others feared, he stood firm. His reputation spread far, and villagers placed their faith in him. His home sat moderately far from town, isolated by rice paddies. To reach his doorstep, people had to cross muddy fields, navigating narrow paths where frogs croaked and crickets sang into the dusk. One day, a group arrived at his house with a girl for treatment. My grandfather was out, so the family waited. The girl was behaving abnormally, attracting a large crowd. Whispers traveled fast. People murmured tales of curses, spirits, and evil energies. As soon as my grandfather heard what was happening, he rushed back. When he arrived, he found a crowd circling the girl. She was in agony. Her tongue hung unnaturally long, nearly the size of a palm. Her eyes blazed crimson, and her skin was marked by sleeplessness. She was tearing out her hair strand by strand, and it took 3 adult men to try and fail to restrain her. Recognizing the urgency, my grandfather used blessed oil and holy water to stabilize her. This wasn't a cure, it was a first step. He told the family to bring her again the following week, when he would conduct a final spiritual healing session. Days went by, and he returned to his normal routine, but one night, he had a dream. A ghastly female figure emerged, dark, twisted, with piercing red eyes. She warned him, "Stop the session, don't interfere, or face the consequences." He woke up startled, but brushed it off, thinking it was a meaningless nightmare. The next night, my grandmother had a dream of her own. She saw the same dark entity, female, terrifying, standing in shadow. The jinn spoke to her, "Tell your husband to stop. Do not separate me from the girl. I love her. If he tries to break our bond, you will suffer." Morning came. My grandmother, shaken, told her husband. He listened but dismissed it gently, saying maybe her sleep had been troubled. Still, he advised her to perform protective Islamic rituals before going to bed. The week passed. As instructed, the family brought the girl back. Her condition had worsened. My grandfather examined her with solemn focus and declared that a female jinn, one who was romantically and obsessively attached to the girl, was possessing her. The family begged him to help. With sacred chants, protective symbols, and spiritual strength, my grandfather conducted a rigorous exorcism. After immense effort, he succeeded. The girl was freed. Weeks passed. My grandmother became pregnant. One night, with a list of chores to attend to, she stepped out into the yard. It was pitch black. 1966 rural Bangladesh had no electricity. The moon was veiled by clouds. As she crossed the lawn under a mango tree, she saw something. A humanoid figure, standing there, watching her. Its face was completely black. But the eyes, those unforgettable eyes, were glowing red, just like in her dream. Silent, still, intense. She screamed and fainted. When she awoke, she told my grandfather everything. Knowing the gravity of her encounter, he conducted rituals to seal the house spiritually, protecting it from evil entry. It worked for a time. But then came the birth. On that dark night, when my grandmother delivered the baby, the cries never came. Everyone gathered around. The infant was lifeless. Her eyes, pure red, dislocated, It was as if something otherworldly had touched her soul. Grief gripped the household. The burial was quiet, sorrowful. The village mourned in silence. Everyone was sad after the incident. After the burial process, the next few months went on as usual. One day my grandfather was invited to sing at a performance in the next village. My grandfather was passionate about singing, so he went. Everything went well. After the party ended, it was midnight. Being very brave, he started his journey back home alone, but who knew that night would change his future forever? To reach his home, he had to cross a river. At night he walked along the road toward a small boat terminal. At that time, only one boat and driver were available. He crossed the river easily. After landing, he had to walk a while and also cross a Hindu cremation ground to reach home. Everywhere was silent. He held a torchlight in his hand. At one point he smelled a very bad odor and realized someone was behind him. He thought it might be someone from his village, so he turned around and pointed the torch. But there was no one. He felt sudden fear and quickly started chanting Quranic verses and locked himself spiritually with rituals. He raced toward his home, but he felt uneasiness. He reached a large jackfruit farmland, where people didn't go even in daylight, and at night it was out of the question. But that was his main path. He feared something might happen if he went there. But what could he do? It was so late at night. If he wanted to reach home fast, that was the only road. Without hesitation, he started walking. As he reached further inside, the smell grew stronger. He kept telling himself, "It's nothing, nothing will happen," but fear was crushing him bit by bit. He started hearing strange noises behind him, but this time, he didn't respond and began walking faster. One thing to mention is that there was a saying, if anyone hears noises from behind at night, never turn back. Suddenly he realized a sound like dry leaves being stepped on was happening right beside him, as if someone was walking alongside. Without thinking, he pointed his torch toward the sound. He saw something rising from an old burial. He thought maybe it was a fox, but then saw the same dark figure from his dream. Suddenly his torch fell to the ground. My grandfather panicked. Total darkness surrounded him. He was on the verge of death by fear. He heard footsteps coming slowly toward him. He begged God for help. That figure suddenly grabbed my grandfather from behind and whispered into his ear, "I told you not to separate me from that girl." My grandfather tried to escape, but that thing was inhumanly strong. Bit by bit, the figure put pressure on his back as if to snap his spine. He was growing lifeless. In a final effort, he shouted, "Allahu Akbar," and with all his might forced himself out of the grip. He realized he was free. He started running in an unknown direction, like a deer fleeing a tiger, without any sense of where he was. It was pitch black. Before losing consciousness, he saw a dim light. He doesn't remember how or what happened. He woke up on his bed the next day. He told everyone in the village what had happened. He realized he was badly injured. His spine had been damaged and he couldn't stand upright anymore. The family took him to another physician, who said the jinn from that girl had done it. The same jinn had killed his daughter. That physician captured the jinn in a bottle and threw it into the Boerab River. My grandfather was never able to stand normally again, but he lived a long, healthy life and eventually became a father.